100th episode as host of The Daily Show, a program that is now being syndicated in 170 countries, including South Africa. And after almost 7 months in the hot seat, he has attracted a local following of millennials as part of his core audience as he tackles the daily grind of the American political landscape, currently in the throes of an election season. Our United States correspondent, Sherwin Bryce-Pease, sat down exclusively with Trevor Noah on the set of The Daily Show to talk about his transition from comedian to television star. Take a look.
In many ways, moving into The Daily Show, you now find yourself on the other side. You are, in a sense, also a journalist. You have to do the research. You have to come up with the questions. You have to interview the subject and not just be the subject.
Yes.
What's that transition been like for you?
It's been a challenging one, but a rewarding one. I think even in South Africa, I always joked about politicians. I always enjoyed dabbling in politics and trying to decipher it, as I always said, on a very simple level for the layman. And coming to the US has afforded me another opportunity to do that. It's a more intense process because I've had not as much time. I didn't grow up in the country, but it's much more exciting because of how the American news cycle works. So it's learning to make it into journalism, but at the same time, it's learning how to use the comedy that I've formed my entire life to get me to this place.
I mean, let's talk then about some of the comedy that has formed you to get to this place. You've introduced an American audience to a president called Jacob Zuma on a number of occasions.
Yes.
Why is it important to bring that international perspective to an audience that perhaps wouldn't necessarily be exposed to something like that?
Well, for multiple reasons. First and foremost, I think of The Daily Show as a show that's being watched everywhere in the world. So my goal is to get it to a place where everyone in the world is watching the same show. And that may seem like a mad dream now, but people watch everything all over the world. We're moving to a global society. And so every country that affects the world is making news in a different way. Jacob Zuma is the president of South Africa. South Africa is part of BRICS. BRICS is the most powerful alliance of developing nations. So it helps for Americans to know who this guy is, what is happening in another country. And sometimes it just helps people to know that they're not the only ones who are going through a crazy time. It's nice to know that it's happening to somebody else. It's nice. It's just that thing we have as people where you go, oh, me too. Oh, you too. It's shame.
One of my questions is SA politics or US politics? Which one would you choose?
Which one would I choose?
In terms of the content you'd like to work with every day.
Oh, that's interesting because I feel like they're slowly becoming the same. South African politics is really entertaining. It's home, so I would always engage in that. And there's also the nuance of the cultures, The one thing that I prefer in South African politics versus American politics is we haven't learned how to formalize our corruption yet. So what's nice about South African politics is it's raw. It's just out there. There's the spy tapes. There's the corruption charges. There's Nkandla. There's the money that was stolen. There's the Air Force base. It's all out there in the open. In America, it's so layered. It's nuanced. It's lobbying. It's appropriations. It's a bill that has been written into law. It's a super PAC. It's campaign financing. They found ways to normalize things that we in South Africa still find garish and brash in terms of money involved in politics.
It's a lot, as you mentioned, to get your head around as a kind of newbie that has to formulate intellectual analysis of this idiosyncratic American system.
Yes.
Is that the challenge, that being an outsider in many ways, to comment on something that might be quite personal to many people?
I think it's a challenge, but it's a gift. Because as an outsider, you come with a new perspective. As an outsider, you come with a bit of distance, which is sometimes what's needed. I feel like that's something that's needed right now in America because politics in America has become increasingly partisan. You are either Republican or you are Democrat. And you don't want to only exist in that space. South Africa had a risk of running into that space where it was only black or only white. But even we right now are seeing that shifting. It's no longer black versus white. No, there's class. You know, the EFF is going on one course. The DA is now slowly changing their identity, and people are saying that's not the white party, it's the party that has black and how much black, how much. The ANC is no longer just seen as black and the face of all black, because many black people are saying this ANC doesn't represent me, and some people are saying no, it does represent me, it's just not doing well right now.
Final question. In many ways it sounds like you're talking about a daily show on the road to South Africa. A possibility?
Oh yeah, definitely. If I could do the Daily Show in every country, I would. I really would. If there was enough time in a day, and if we had enough resources, I would make the Daily Show for every single country in the world, because the world is happening. Like, people need to know what's happening in their country. People need to be a part of the process. And it's some of the funniest stuff that's going on out there. Like, politicians are not as serious as people think they are, and politics is not as inaccessible as people think it is. It's just people use bombastic words and try and make it seem like it's out of your reach. The truth is, they're simple people who are just trying to live in an overly complicated world.
Well, people like you make it more accessible. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Indeed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Trevor.
And that's our Sherwin Bryce-Pease talking to our Trevor Noah, of course, who's the host of The Daily Show. 100th episode celebrated, and of course going out to 170 countries. Can you believe it? He's not the only South African. There are a host of South Africans that are flying the flag incredibly high for the African continent. Let's go to our